She creates noise. She creates noise. She's moving through the world with a powerful voice. She creates noise. She creates. She creates noise. She creates noise.
Hi, you're listening to Sarah Nagurney, and welcome to She Creates Noise, a new podcast spotlighting women who power the music industry, coming to you from New York City. Now, if you don't know me yet, here's a little background. I'm a songwriter, producer, manager, educator, and mentor. I've written platinum-selling songs, had tracks on Grammy-nominated records, and released music on both major and independent labels. I've been a jazz singer, a jingle singer, toured with big bands, and became a pop artist, and I performed at festivals across the U.S., Europe, and Asia. These days, I focus on writing with and developing young talent. In the coming weeks, I'll be pulling back the curtain on the music industry's female changemakers. Some are close friends, others I'm just getting to know, but all have reshaped the business in profound ways. My goal here is to help listeners better understand how the music business really works, and just how instrumental women behind the scenes have been. You'll hear from both sides of the desk: artists, producers, managers, label executives, lawyers, women making things happen, often without the spotlight on them. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now let's dive in.
She creates noise.
Today I'd like to welcome Annette Barrett. Annette Barrett is a veteran music publishing executive with over 40 years of experience. She began her career at UK-based Carlin Music and rose through the ranks to hold senior positions at Virgin Music and Warner Chappell, where she became the first woman appointed to the board of directors. Since 2001, Annette has served as managing director of Reservoir Reverb Music, working with top-tier songwriters like Jamie Hartman, Ina Rolson, and Insani. Under her leadership, the company has been behind major hits, including Human and Giant by Rag & Bone Man and How Deep Is Your Love by Calvin Harris and the Disciples. Annette has also worked with legendary artists such as David Bowie, George Michael, Elton John, Eric Clapton, Madonna, and Prince. A passionate supporter of emerging talent, she continues to mentor the next generation of songwriters. In 2014, she co-founded the Independent Music Publishers Forum, the IMPF, and was re-elected to president in 2021, advocating for independent publishers and songwriters on a global scale. Please welcome Annette Barrett.
She creates noise.
I was thinking about how long I've known you. I'm thinking, am I allowed to say?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm very honored. Thank you. Yes, of course you are. Yeah. How long is it?
Well, you were at Warner's. It's probably pushing 30 years. It's before my daughter was born, so 27 or something like that.
Wow. Time flies.
Yeah, I want to sort of mention, one of the things I want to bring up here is what an interesting journey you've had and how much you and people like you have trailblazed for the women in the business that have come after you. And if you could tell us a little bit of how you fell into this crazy business, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, it has been a long journey, actually, but I guess I love it. I think it's certainly who I am. It's part of, it's in my DNA. So, yeah, well, I came into it actually by way of art, it was always art, music in school anyway. I mean, that's what I loved, but I managed to get a scholarship. We'll go back to that maybe later, at the Sorbonne, actually, in Paris. So I was very lucky, and I spent a year studying fine art in Paris. And anyway, came back, did my A-levels, then went to St. Martin's School of Art, which was fantastic. But I just came out of there going, well, now what do I do? But I was doing a lot of private work, so that was quite nice. So a friend through a friend of a friend or whatever, and I've always loved music, and I was always at shows and gigs, and I did know a lot of people in the music business, actually. So, and somebody said, oh, there's a job at Carlin Music, actually it was, which was great, established, old catalogue. Elvis Presley, it was you name it, it was there. It was just fantastic, and it was a great learning curve. And so someone said to me, "Well, why don't you go in and see what you know?"
She creates noise.
I loved creating, I was very much into the whole sort of interacting, networking and social thing. I felt, and I think that's why I really is very aligned with songwriters. I understand when you're in a studio and you're creating something, it's like, is this any good? Where am I going to go with this? What am I going to do with it? So, it's very much, I think, helping navigate creativity. I think that was very much my calling.
Because you understood it so much from being in a studio and being an artist.
Yeah, from being, being there on my own and doing something. I think it was, I had a great affiliation with, always have done with songwriters, still do. So I think from that angle, it was very, very much a very natural process. But I actually started off in the copyright department. So I got to know the real, how publishing worked. And I think that's a great way to start, because publishing is very, multifaceted. There's so much going on. And then every territory is different as well. So I had a really good grounding and background, and I never really looked back from there. I mean, obviously, I've always dabbled with my art. I'd had exhibitions and I'd sold stuff. It sort of just went from there, and I'm still doing it today.
She creates noise.
And it's lucky that you started on sort of on the copyright side, because you got to see the business side of things. Even though you were a creative, it was a great mix for you.
It is. It has been a great mix, and I do feel that not a lot of people have that. Both sides, both elements of it. You're either, I very much felt that in when I was in Warner Chappell, which I was for like 12 years. I very much felt that where, people were very much either creative or they were, for me, it was great. It was really helpful.
Magical combo.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, you've led Reverb Music for over 2 decades, and it's part of Reservoir, which is a U.S. company. How has your role evolved since the acquisition, particularly in bridging the U.K. and U.S. publishing operations?
Well, I've always been a great advocate of international anyway. So I've always worked the international side. In fact, in Warner Chappell, I set up the whole international department, which when I went there in, I think, 1990, I joined 1989, 1990. They did have an international department, but it was actually just really to sort of set up Medium for people to go to Medium.
I think I remember that. I remember that you were there. Yeah.
Yeah. I reinvented the whole thing, where I'd already put people from different territories together and stuff, and really, sort of cross-pollinated lots of different writers from different countries and different things. I wasn't reinventing the wheel, but it was certainly in the 90s that was quite new, actually. People weren't doing that so much. But now, anything can come from anywhere. And I've always felt that, actually. I've always thought it was, it was a great thing to sort of have different influences from different cultures.
Looking at K-pop, for example, yeah.
Some writers actually blossom in other territories, and, they haven't had much success in their own territory, but yet they go to another territory, maybe in Germany or something, and something just clicks. It's quite interesting how it works. Or, go to Southeast Asia and they seem to find their spark there. So it's really interesting how creativity can work in different regions, different cultures, different territories. And now, as I say, anything can come from anywhere.
And some major artists, I think Dua Lipa included, was actually signed out of Germany originally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, there are many examples of that too.
Oh, many, lots of...
The boy groups, I think, early on.
And lots of people do get their own territory. I think, there's always that sort of initial thing of like, I really want to make it in my own. I want to be, huge in America, or if I'm American, or I want to be huge in the UK. But, it's a big wide world out there. And actually, you can do very well in other territories as well. And, hopefully come back to your own territories.
She creates noise.
I love going to the UK as a songwriter. Great history for songwriting in the UK. But there are a lot of, I guess, major writers already signed to Reservoir. And so it's kind of, I guess it's a balancing act for you and for Reservoir to find the catalogs you're working with and also to work with bringing in new talent? How do you kind of work on that on a global scale?
That is quite interesting, but, I think it's down to instinct, really. I think you know who you can work with, or one hopefully knows who one can work with, and you have a connection, and you know that you can work with lots of different.
Now, who are some of the main talents now? I read, is Ali Tamposi still signed to Reservoir? Joni Mitchell?
Yeah, Joni, yeah. Joni Mitchell, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we have many great songwriters, and my roster is probably, and I've worked with mine from from the Reverb days, because Reservoir acquired Reverb in 2012.
And just reminding anyone, of course, Annette is in the UK. She's got a British accent, but she's actually in the UK.
I'm actually in the UK. I do travel a lot, but yes, I'm actually based in the UK. And I have on my roster, I have Aha, which actually I worked with at Warner Chappell originally.
In the beginning?
They came here, so that was...
the song that keeps on giving.
I've got Peter Gordino, who's now Depeche Mode, and I've worked with Pete since 2003, who's Rag and Bone Man, Human, Giant, and many, many, many more. We've worked together since about 2003.
But you are still looking to sign new talent, as I seem to remember, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And obviously we have a creative team here as well, which is always looking. We have some really good, and we're constantly signing new up-and-coming writers as well, which is really important, I think,
Keep it alive. I know you had mentioned you worked with global hit makers like Jamie Hartman, who did Human and Giant, and Ina Roldson, How Deep Is Your Love? And you also brought in and advised talents like Cut Father. I remember you told me a fun story about that. I suppose you kind of mentioned this. Who else have you actually championed yourself personally?
I've got Phil Manzanera, who's Roxy Music.
Right, well.
And still doing lots of new projects as well, which is always interesting. Nitin Sawhney, who's really amazing, probably the busiest man in the music business as well. He's always he does a lot of film stuff and a lot of TV stuff as well. Great scorer, great musician, great producer, and also a great artist too. He does every year. He sells out at the Royal Albert Hall. Such a great show. Very varied. But I think publishing is just the nature of it is very varied. Obviously, one leans into what one really loves, which for me is a great song. So that can go across so many borders, so many genres. So for me, it's been very varied over the years. And I've been lucky enough to work with some great people. So Elton John, Madonna, Prince, Sting, The Police in my time.
That's the crazy part, all these people that you worked with. How did you know what would stand out? What stands out to you? How do you pick? Is it your gut, or it's a song?
Well, it's all about the song for me. It all starts with a song, obviously, and it is all about the song. So, if I hear a great song, but it's instinct and it's a connection. That is just a natural instinct for me. So if I hear something and I want to hear more.
And nowadays, though, I guess you're conferring with your A&R department to talk about new artists and such.
Absolutely, yeah, very much so. I'm always interested in new things that are happening, and also, cross-pollinating with, new writers and maybe more established writers. As you can get in the studio and, you have an idea, but you can take it in a totally different direction when someone else comes in and goes, yeah, but let's look at this. Let's see how this works. So I think co-writing is a great creative form and can bring out. I know a lot of new writers sometimes are a little cautious about going in and saying, I like to write my own stuff and the whole thing. But also, you run out of ideas, and it's great to find somebody else's ideas. I think there's that fear involved, and many, many, many times have I had to coax people in, and then oh, that was fantastic.
Just so it's clear, we're talking about collaboration. So publishers do a lot to put writers together, different writers, and sometimes often they don't know each other, and they sometimes are nervous about getting in the room with someone they don't know. But I think a lot of publishers, and including I spoke to Sam Cox at BMI, really encourage it because it really does help give you new opportunities, and you learn so much from other writers.
And areas that you perhaps, might not have thought of going in, directions you might not have thought of going in, and something sparks. It can be magic. Yeah, it can be tough as well, not sometimes you just get great collaborations together.
She creates noise.
I know you told me about Cut Father. He was kind of not comfortable with the idea of doing a Nashville co-write. You can fill us in a little on that.
Yeah, well, we were in LA actually, and we just opened our Nashville Reservoir had opened its Nashville office, and the Nashville staff were there as well. So I introduced him, and I said, it might be really interesting for you to go to Nashville. And Cut Father is from Copenhagen, so very much in the pop world and dance world, and he looked at me and he went, "What would I do there?" So I said, "You might be surprised." And he said, "Yeah, okay." So anyway, we chatted, we talked about it, and anyway, he did go, and he ended up with the number one actually with Pink and Keith Urban.
Keith Urban and Pink. Not so very shabby.
Not very shabby. And now it's a trip once a year. They do co-writes and they go to him as well, to his studio in Copenhagen. So it is that thing of like throwing it out there sometimes. It's left of centre, but it can really work.
It's cross-pollinating. Now, I know you have a very interesting story to tell and something that a lot of people don't know about you. You want to tell us a little about your experience at the Sorbonne?
Yeah. Luckily, I had a great art teacher, actually. So she very much encouraged me and whatever. And as a young student, I got into the Sorbonne it was such a great moment, I think, in time. My mother was a careers officer too, so she was very aware of...
What a great thing that would be. And also you made a very good friend there, I think you told me. Kind of a famous friend, in fact.
Yeah, I did, actually. I got to the Sorbonne. I did my A-levels art very early, so I went there when I was about 17, nearly 17, and I was very young. Yeah, I met David Bowie there, actually, because my tutor...
David Bowie, I'm not sure if everyone heard that, but yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, my tutor was also working with David. I mean, David was getting himself ready for his tour. He was doing the...
Serious Moonlight, or?
No. It was the Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was, pretty young.
Early days.
He's always a great artist, David, and always a great mentor, always a great for any new artist. He used to really help. I mean, throughout his career, art was a big thing for him, and he had such a great collection as well. So, yes, we met there, and we were friends then for life, basically, until he passed. I mean, I did work with him on some projects. I did do the Serious Moonlight tour with him.
I remembered that. It was stuck in my memory there.
Moonlight tour, and then I did do some other projects with him as well. But basically, our connection was through art, and he was always sending me books, telling me what to go and see, what exhibitions were on around the world. You've got to see this, you'll love it. Yeah, he had quite a bit of my art, and over the years sold some of my art because he had a couple of galleries. We were very good friends. That icon, he was a very special person, actually.
Such an icon. So interesting. Just changing the subject, that's, also cool that you had that relationship. I believe in 2014, you co-founded the Independent Music Publishers Forum, known as the IMPF. And in 2021, you were re-elected president of the organization. In this role, you continue to champion the interests of independent publishers and songwriters around the world. Can you tell us a little about that organization and how it advocates for independent artists, etc.?
That's my other job.
Yeah, your other full-time job.
So the IMPF is the International Independent Music Publishers Forum, which in 2013, there was about 10 of us in Paris globally from around the world, and we were sat down and talked about, do we need a trade body to represent the independent music publishers? And we were humming and ahhing, do we need another trade body? And anyway, it was agreed that we did, particularly for the independents, because I think, sometimes the independence issues, problems get lost, with the majors, and because we do have different issues. Not always, but there are certain issues that do come up and do affect us differently. Yeah, so we created this global trade body, and it's run out of Brussels now, and we are funded by the EU now as well. And this is the second round of funding that we've managed to get because we've done very well. Basically, we deal with any issues globally. We have probably about 350 members around the world. We have set up a summit in Palma in October. We do it every year now, which Billboard last year said it was basically a very cool medium replaced.
She creates noise.
What time of year is that?
October.
Oh, okay.
October 7th to the 10th, around that time. And so we do a lot of panels. There's a lot of meetings that people do, obviously. And we have, and it's
Sort of like a global AIMP type thing, like the conference they do?
Yeah, we also, not only do we run the business side of it, but I thought was very important, as an independent music publisher, that we also put together a songwriting camp, which we have about 21 writers. We have a great studio there with 7 rooms where we put a whole cast of global writers together, which members send in, and I oversee the selection committee as well for that, and look to sort of put together different songwriters and artists. But basically we have 5 days of songwriting, and then on the last evening of the summit we do a playback of the songs that have been done while we're there, and have a bit of mentoring going on while they're there. I often bring out other songwriters, a bit more established songwriters and stuff as well. But also, the big thing there is obviously culturally, everyone's very different because they're all from all over the world, because we have members from over 5 continents.
That sounds like a cool thing.
It's grown immensely.
I'll want a link for that from you. I'll put a link in the notes.
It grows day by day. We get new members every day. So it's been really successful. And obviously having EU funding has helped us a lot. But the EU they've really embraced it and said that it's one of the most creative things that they've actually been involved with. So we are joining the dots between Europe and the rest of the world as well. So we organise songwriting camps all year round as well. So we do webinars on issues that around the world, it's all different governments have different ideas on this as well. And although quite a black hole there with AI.
AI is a whole nother thing, I guess, right?
But other issues, obviously, as well. We deal with any of the PROs with problems and stuff like that. Anything that is an issue, and we try and share these problems so that we can try and come up with solutions and obviously help wherever we can as well, and also share them with globally too, because people need to understand how differently things do work around the world. From America to the UK is very different from Europe. We have very different ways of working, but obviously transparency is all very important as well. And, representing the songwriters too, that's a big part of what we do. And I do get the songwriters involved with a lot of it as well. So it is very much, although it's a trade body, we do have very much a creative edge to it as well.
And the song camp sounds great. I'll definitely love to know more about that. Very exciting work all around. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to talk about or mention?
I think we've covered quite a lot, really.
So much to cover, but I'm glad we talked about David Bowie. That'll be something everyone will. I never knew about it. It was really interesting when you told me.
He used to have some of my art as well. So, because I used to use it as a model when I was in Paris, and when he was there, he wasn't there all the time, obviously, but when he was there, so yeah.
He was a supporter.
Oh no, but I meant I used him to draw. Yeah, I'm going to have that, and I'd be like, yeah, well, But he was close to them, so yeah.
It's great. Love to see some of that. Well, Annette, it's been really fantastic to talk to you and so interesting. I feel like I've got to do episode 2 about you. We certainly covered some great stuff, and we'll put some links in about the song camp and the IMPF, and everyone should just know that there's so much going on out there, and you're behind so much of it.
And it's very important now, I feel, to give something back as well and try and sort of help where we can, and through experience as well, obviously. Hopefully we can do more, bigger and better out.
Well, thank you for all you do, and it was so much fun chatting, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Very honoured to be on. Thanks.
Thanks.
She creates noise.
I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Heard City, the premier audio post-production company servicing the advertising, motion picture, and television industries right here in NYC. I'd also like to thank Ann Tello, aka XO Ann, for singing the She Creates Noise theme that I wrote. Thanks for listening to She Creates Noise. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share. I want to thank the team here, Blair Reinley, Yelena Stavanovich, Emily Wilson, and the Master of Engineering and Grammy-winning Cooper Anderson. We'll see you next time.
She creates noise. She creates noise. She creates noise. We hear her voice. She creates noise.